First, let me express my deep appreciation to lawyer Peter Kim and the Save Korea Foundation. Every day, they are saving Korea. Please stand up. And I am honored, deeply honored, to be here among all of you patriots. The title of my talk is The Collapse of Human Rights in South Korea. But we are really talking about the collapse of South Korea itself. And we're also more precisely discussing the end of the South Korean state. Moon Jae-in, the president of the Republic of Korea, wants to end South Korea, the country that he was elected to protect, the country, the oath of which he said he would defend. We are here together this evening, far away from Korea, because there is one thing that unites all of us. We have all pledged to defend the Republic of Korea, South Korea. And there's one thing that we all agree, that the most insidious danger to South Korea is its President Moon. Moon is an enemy of freedom and democracy and human rights in South Korea. So if we're going to protect South Korea, if we're going to save South Korea, if we're going to defend South Korea, we are going to have to rid ourselves of Moon Jae-in. Moon must go. Moon must go. Moon must go. Moon must go. Tonight, we will talk about how we go about doing that. And we start on April 15th, 2020. On that day, the National Assembly elections, all 300 seats are up for grabs. This election is important for many reasons, but tonight we're going to talk about two of them. And they both relate to the Constitution. First, there is the amendment of the Constitution of the Republic of Korea. The President, Moon Jae-in, may propose amendments. Article 130 requires that those amendments receive at least a simple majority of the votes of the people of all of South Korea in a referendum. In that referendum, this simple majority will determine the future. April 15th, therefore, is do or die. It's now or never. Because if it were up to Moon, he would merge his South Korea into North Korea, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the Kim regime. Now, Moon may, because he's counting the votes, Moon may actually get a simple majority of all the people of South Korea to end South Korea. So this means that the only thing that reliably stands between freedom and democracy and justice, freedom, truth, justice, the only thing that stands between that and a totalitarian dictatorship is the National Assembly. Today, conservatives have 110 or so seats in the National Assembly. We have to win at least 101 seats on that April 15th election. The Liberty Korea Party, the main opposition group in the National Assembly, has those 110 seats. Also, scattered small conservative groups have a few more. But that means we have to make sure that we hold on to all of those seats, because Moon Jae-in's party, the Democratic Party of Korea, Minju, we know that they want to get rid of all that is dear to you and to me and to the people of South Korea. How do we know this? We don't have to speculate, because in the spring of last year, Minju tried to amend the Constitution of the Republic of Korea to take out the concept of liberal when it came to the notion of democracy. The South conservatives, fortunately, were able to stop that effort to amend the Constitution. But we know that Moon did not give up. Moon's Ministry of Education started to change the textbooks of South Korea. Take the textbooks and change it so that freedom was no longer there. And indeed, they succeeded in taking freedom out of the textbooks for the middle schools. And why would Moon want to do something like this? Well, on the Korean Peninsula, democracy does not have to be liberal. Look, you've got Kim Jong-un's regime. They don't believe in liberalism, but they say, believe in democracy. After all, the formal name of North Korea is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Moon's political party, they call themselves Democrats. It's the Democratic Party of Korea. But Moon's party is leading the attack on freedom and democracy. Many speculate that Moon wants to promote unification. So what he's trying to do is to make South Korea and the Constitution of South Korea more compatible with that of North Korea. So job number one for conservatives, for you and me and everyone, is to make sure that on April 15th, 2020, that conservatives take back the National Assembly. That's the first National Assembly issue. Second one is, we all know, the ultimate safeguard for freedom and democracy in South Korea is the removal of Moon Jae-in. And in the Constitution of South Korea, Article 65 provides for impeachment and adjudication. So let's take a look at the case of President Park Geun-hye. Was she guilty of having the wrong judgment in choosing a confidant? Well, whatever you may say. Is she guilty of being unpopular? Yeah, probably she was. But was she guilty of a violation of her duties under the Constitution in the performance of her job? Definitely no. No. Definitely no. 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 Was she guilty of corruption? No. 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 She was impeached and she was convicted because she was railroaded by the National Assembly. She was railroaded by a sophisticated and slick and cynical operation run by Moon Jae-in. The statement that lawyer Kim will show you soon, that statement demands justice for President Park. We know that today, Moon does not want justice for her. We know that because he did not want justice for her in 2017. As my friend Lawrence Peck has said, Moon is very smart in his ability to bring criminal charges against his political opponents. And that's exactly what he's doing now. We have seen so many people put in jail with no justification. One of the more important cases was that of Media Watch's Byun Hae-je. In December, Byun and 3 of his Media Watch colleagues was convicted of libel against JTBC, a cable television network. He was convicted of libel because of a story regarding the tablet computer of President Park. Now, if Byun was not found guilty, then that would have challenged the whole basis of the impeachment of President Park. So the acquittal would have called into question Moon Jae-in's legitimacy. Now, given the unusual circumstances of this case, because we know that there are very few prosecutions for libel in South Korea. There are very few pre-conviction detentions in South Korea. We know because this was so unusual, we know that Byun and his 3 Media Watch colleagues were political prisoners of Moon Jae-in. And there have been other journalists we know who have been wrongly detained and convicted. In fact, there has been a collapse of human rights in South Korea. Under Moon, human rights have had a few bad years, a few very, very bad years. Moon is clearly eroding democratic institutions in the Republic of Korea. Since becoming president, Moon has taken control of the big broadcasters. And because he's done that, he's made sure that the broadcasters don't talk about anything that Moon doesn't like. Especially, he does not like criticism of his terrible, terrible North Korea policies. Anything critical of Moon is not permitted. And these days, it's not safe to say many things in South Korea. So to reinforce his control over broadcasting and the media and the public narrative, he's not only gone after the cable TV stations, he's also gone after social media. He's moving against content that he believes cause social distrust. One of his big targets has been YouTube. YouTube, as we all know, is one of the few channels where conservatives can talk to each other and talk to other people in South Korea. Now, Moon has tried to enact censorship laws, but he doesn't need censorship laws to go after YouTube, which is owned by Google. We know that because Minju has started a tax evasion case against Google Korea, because Google Korea refused to take down 104 YouTube videos that Moon did not like. Moreover, Moon has been relentless. He's been using the National Police Agency to go after all of those people that he thinks have been saying things that are factually incorrect, fake news. And you don't even need to be factually incorrect in Korea to be a target of Moon Jae-in. Recently, he has been going after 70 South Koreans because they dared to question where Moon was for 5 hours in the beginning of April of this year when there were the deadly wildfires in the eastern portions of the country. And now, in Korea, it is dangerous to mention the Gwangju incident. We know that because any criticism of the May 18th democratization movement, as he calls it, is banned. Don't say anything that is wildly unpopular. Don't say, for instance, that North Korea might have had a hand in Gwangju. It is all very dangerous. Moon's government has sought to silence other critics as well. His government has relentlessly moved against those who left North Korea and who have found refuge in South Korea. So from all of this, we know one thing, and that is Moon Jae-in supports Kim Jong-un. In short, conservative voices in South Korea are being persecuted, they're being prosecuted, they're being pressured, censored, and harassed. This is awful. There is now in South Korea a reign of terror. This reign of terror started out small at first, but now it's become all-pervasive. And we can see the fear. We can actually see the fear in South Korea. At those weekly flag rallies in Seoul, we see young demonstrators hide their faces with masks or in other ways to prevent their faces from being identified by the government and by photographers. Now, there's a reason for South Koreans to be concerned, because now, in addition to Moon, there are also dangerous elements that are allowed to run free in South Korea. In this reign of terror, pro-North Korean forces are free to speak, they are free to act, and they are denying those rights to speak and to act to other people who are not pro-North Korea. North Korea's radical proponents run around and talk about what they call the scum, quote unquote. Who are the scum? These are people who want freedom and democracy and truth and justice and human rights. These are the people like you who have fled North Korea. Now we have these radicals in South Korea who feel that they can go around and try to put the lives of North Korean defectors into danger. Last year, these people have gone around and they've put in wanted posters in Seoul for 2 North Korean defectors. And because it's believed that these defectors are on an assassination hit list of Kim Jong-un, that of course has put their lives into danger. The now notorious Buktu group and their allies in the Flower Wave are openly and with impunity acting, and they are dangerous. They have intruded into classrooms to shout their propaganda. They invaded the offices of Daily NK, a news website, to intimidate the staff. And we also know they've broken into the offices of a human rights organization to disrupt their operations. Now, Buktu members have also made public death threats, and they've staged mock public arrests with their victims bound in rope, suggesting lynchings. So the alarm right now in Seoul and in other places in South Korea is clear, and that's not the way it was supposed to be. Quote, "I will strive to get rid of authoritarian practices in the presidency." Moon said those words on the day that he was inaugurated in May of 2017. Although he made his name as a human rights campaigner and as a democracy advocate, we have seen that he has been much more aggressive than his predecessors in using state power to go against those he does not like. South Korean society was actually freer under his 2 predecessors, Presidents Lee Min-bok and Park Geun-hye. Moon, and let's be clear about this, Moon has reversed a decade of liberalization and democratization. He is now returning South Korea to a dark period. And worse, he is returning South Korea and trying to make it into North Korea. So as the Save South Korea Foundation is promoting, we need a human rights special rapporteur from the UN for South Korea. This is absolutely critical. The South Korea of tomorrow is going to be a dangerous place. We need to protect freedom, truth, justice. Moon, as we talked about, is trying to unify the 2 Koreas. Now we know that every Korean leader, both north and south of the demilitarized zone, since 1945, when the Korean Peninsula was divided, every Korean leader, both north and south, have promoted unification. So we shouldn't be surprised when Moon has met Kim Jong-un that he's pushed the idea of the 2 Koreas getting together. Now, both Seoul and Pyongyang have had their various proposals for unification, and basically these are confederation ideas, where you have 1 country, 2 governments. But because the 2 Koreas are so different, because North Korea is so bad and South Korea is so good, even these loose arrangements have not been able to be put into place. Now, Moon is the first Korean leader to accept the unification proposals of the other side, and he is pushing unification hard. He's working so hard that he is undermining the defenses of South Korea. So for instance, last September, he agreed to a 17-page document with North Korea, and that document helps the attacker, North Korea, far more than it helps South Korea. We also know that Moon has been unilaterally taking down the defenses south of the demilitarized zone. He's been doing this unilaterally. Moon has also been taking steps to reduce the capability of the South Korean army to defend itself, and Moon has been doing his best to undermine the alliance with the United States. There is only one country that is pledged to defend South Korea. It is the country that rushed to South Korea's defense after Kim Il-sung on June 25, 1950, attacked South Korea. It is the one country today that has troops in South Korea to protect it. And that country, of course, is the United States of America. Moon says that he supports the alliance, but he doesn't really mean it. He's allowed his senior officials to mischaracterize the nature of the alliance to whip up public sentiment in South Korea against America. He has made it difficult for the U.S. to maintain its only battery of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD. And he's gone behind the backs of his American allies to come to agreement with China in late October 2017. That, of course, is the 3 no's, where Moon agreed that there would be no more THAAD emplacements. He agreed that South Korea would not participate in integrated missile defense with the United States, and Moon agreed that there would be no tripart alliance with Japan and the United States. Now, these 3 negative commitments undermine the ability of the U.S. to defend South Korea. And what Moon has done is he's given in to Chinese bullying, and China has been bullying South Korea to help North Korea. So Moon is allowing China to dictate the defenses of South Korea. China, the only ally of North Korea. I can't say that Moon hates America, but we know that at the end of last month, when President Trump went to Seoul, he stood next to Moon and the First Lady. And the First Lady was wearing on her dress a blue butterfly pin. That pin, of course, has become a symbol of anti-Americanism in South Korea. So what Moon was doing was he's disrespecting not only President Trump, he was disrespecting the United States of America, the only country going to defend South Korea. I can't say that Moon is a traitor to South Korea, but I can say that if he were a traitor, he would be doing exactly what he is doing now to undermine and attack freedom and democracy and human rights in the Republic of Korea. So let me close with just one point. Moon's administration has been whipping up anti-Japanese sentiment in the last several weeks. I understand that. I come from a Chinese household. My dad, in the 1940s, he fled the Japanese. He was in Shanghai, and he moved west across the country with millions, perhaps tens of millions, of other Chinese who were escaping from the marauding Japanese army. But we've got to be clear that no one who authorized the attack of China, is alive today in Japan. And no Japanese who was in a position of authority in Korea is alive today. As far as I can tell, Moon Jae-in is whipping up anti-Japanese sentiment because he wants to regain popularity to retain political power. But here is the important point. Today, if North Korea attacks South Korea, if the Chinese troops pour across the demilitarized zone into South Korea, then the United States is going to need the help of Japan to defend South Korea. We Americans are going to need our military bases in Tokyo and in Okinawa and across the Japanese archipelago. We are going to need the active support of Tokyo to defend South Korea. But Moon doesn't care. It looks like he wants the North Koreans to invade. Moon, by word and deed, is pro-North Korea, pro-China, and anti-America. And he is the enemy of all things that are good in South Korea. So therefore, let's all of us make a pledge right now. We will make a pledge that we will defend freedom and democracy in South Korea, and that freedom and democracy in South Korea will never die. So let me hear you say it. Let me hear you say it out loud. Freedom will never die. Freedom will never die. Freedom will never die. Will never die. And because of your dedication and your determination, I am sure that freedom will live in South Korea. Thank you so much.